Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into a 2,500-year-old masterclass on finding genuine peace, and we do this by fundamentally shifting how we hold on to our beliefs and our desires. We're looking at a brilliant ancient text known as the Alagaddūpama Sutta, and it essentially challenges us to look really closely at our attachments. And I don't just mean our attachment to physical stuff, but our deep-seated attachment to our very ideas of who we are.
So, ask yourself this intriguing question right now. What happens when you hold on to a good thing way too tightly? Or even better, how do you safely catch a venomous snake? Today, we are unraveling this ancient text to see how grasping, even at something as positive as knowledge, can totally bite back. We generally think that acquiring more knowledge, more strong opinions, and more rigid rules is the ultimate path to success. But the text we're analyzing today flips that completely upside down. It proposes that the way you hold your knowledge is literally a matter of life and death.
Section 1. A dangerous misunderstanding. The stubborn monk.
Our source text kicks off with a really fascinating inciting incident involving a monk named Aritha. Now, Aritha wasn't just a little bit confused. He was actively spreading a perspective that was alarming the entire community. He was stubbornly claiming that indulging in sensual pleasures wasn't an obstacle at all, which directly contradicted the core teachings. His peers tried repeatedly to correct him, reminding him that these pursuits were explicitly described as dangerous traps. But Aritha just dug his heels in. He was absolutely convinced he knew better than everyone else.
Well, the Buddha steps in and rapidly dismantles Aritha's claim, firing off these intensely vivid, high-stakes metaphors to show that these desires actually bring nothing but suffering and despair. The text really doesn't hold back here. It compares sensual indulgence to gnawing on a completely meatless skeleton or holding a blazing grass torch upwind so it inevitably burns your own hand. It's like borrowing fancy goods only to have them violently ripped away, or honestly, just walking right up to the head of a venomous snake. The message is crystal clear: these fleeting pleasures are absolute traps.
Section 2. Catching the water snake, the right way to learn. You see, Aritha's real problem wasn't just his craving for pleasure, it was how he mishandled the teachings themselves. The text gives us this unforgettable mental image. Think about it. If you need to catch a venomous water snake, you don't just reach down and grab its tail. If you do, it's going to whip right around and bite you, leading to immense suffering. Instead, a wise person uses a forked stick to pin the snake securely behind the head. In this metaphor, the snake is the teaching. If you learn something, just win arguments, criticize others, or just stroke your own ego, you're grabbing that snake right by the tail.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that knowledge, very much like a venomous water snake, demands immense respect. Mishandling it hurts you rather than helps you. If you don't examine the meaning of what you learn with actual wisdom, if you're only in it to win debates, the teachings themselves become a source of ruin. You become arrogant, you become stubborn, and ultimately you suffer.
Section 3. The Raft Simile, knowing when to let go.
Now, this builds into one of the absolute most famous and honestly most profound metaphors in all of Eastern philosophy. Imagine a traveler standing at the edge of a terrifying, incredibly dangerous river. The other side is totally safe and secure, but there's no bridge and no ferry in sight. So our traveler scrambles to gather grass, twigs, branches, and leaves. They lash it all together into a makeshift raft, and using sheer willpower, paddling frantically with their hands and feet, they finally cross over to safety.
But here is the absurd, absolutely vital question you have to ask yourself about what you do with the very tool that saved you. Imagine the traveler thinks, wow, this raft was incredibly helpful. It literally saved my life. I should hoist it onto my head and carry it with me wherever I go on dry land. As the text points out, and as I'm sure you'd agree, that would be completely ridiculous. The raft has fully served its purpose.
The text is explicitly clear on this point. Even the most profound truths and practices are meant to be vehicles for liberation, not heavy dogmas to be stubbornly carried around forever. Once you reach the safe shore, the only logical thing to do is leave the raft in the water or on the bank and walk away freely. You use the teachings to cross over the river of suffering, but once you've crossed, you've got to let them go. Grasping them tightly just turns them into a brand new burden.
Section 4. The illusion of self. What are we clinging to?
So what actually makes this raft so heavy in the first place? Why is it human nature to grab onto things and hoist them onto our heads? Well, our text identifies the 5 aggregates, which is basically your physical body, your fleeting emotions, your thoughts, your mental habits, and your base awareness.
We mistakenly cling to these, incorrectly thinking they represent a permanent self. We look at these passing components and we say, yep, this is me, this is mine. But the text argues none of these are permanent. They are constantly shifting, and clinging to them as a fixed identity practically guarantees suffering.
To dismantle this powerful illusion of self, the text offers a really brilliant meditative mantra to apply to everything we perceive. When you look at an emotion, say a sudden intense burst of anger or a wave of anxiety, instead of fully identifying with it, you observe it and realize, this is not mine. It is literally just a temporary feeling passing through your system.
By actively repeating this perspective, we slowly begin to distance ourselves from the constant, exhausting anxiety of defending our ego. When you look at your physical form or the random thoughts racing in your head, you remind yourself, this is not what I am. You begin to detach from that desperate need to control everything around you, simply because you realize these passing elements don't define your ultimate reality. And finally, this is not myself. This cuts straight to the root of all human agitation. The core concept here is non-self. When a wise person applies this framework to the past, the present, and the future, to the internal and the external, they just stop grasping. And when you stop grasping, you become free. You finally drop that heavy raft.
Section 5. Praise, Blame, and Freedom. The Ultimate Test.
Okay, so how does this actually protect you in daily life? Well, the text explains that when you stop clinging, neither insults from your harshest critics nor flattery from your biggest admirers can shake you. If people insult or curse the teacher, he feels absolutely no anger or resentment. Conversely, if people shower him with praise, he doesn't feel a drop of pride. Why? Because there's simply no ego left to defend and no ego left to inflate. He recognizes that they are just directing their praise or blame at temporary aggregates that he has already understood and completely let go of.
The text grounds this incredibly high-level philosophy by essentially breaking the fourth wall, using the very trees around the monks to prove a point. The Buddha asks the monks, if someone came into this specific grove, gathered up the fallen twigs and leaves, and set them all on fire, would you think, ouch, they are burning me? And the monks immediately reply, well, no, of course not. Those leaves aren't us.
So the point is, just as you don't feel physical pain when a random leaf is burned, you aren't going to feel mental suffering when you stop identifying with fleeting emotions and forms. Your physical body, your passing feelings, your shifting perceptions, they are exactly like the twigs and leaves sitting out in that grove. They are not you. They are not yours. Therefore, just let them go.
The ultimate promise of this entire explainer is this beautiful, unshakable, lasting peace that comes simply from dropping the weight we were never actually meant to carry. By correctly handling knowledge, by using the raft to cross over and then leaving it behind, and by recognizing that the self is an illusion built on temporary parts, you literally eradicate the roots of anxiety.
So, I want to leave you with this one provocative question to chew on today as you walk your own path. What heavy raft are you still carrying around on your head? Is there a belief, a label, or maybe an achievement that served you really well in the past, but has now just become a heavy burden? Take a page out of this ancient masterclass, put it down, leave it on the shore, and walk forward in freedom.